Week 3 Education Myths, Jason Starinieri, Concordia University of Portland. There are a number of myths surrounding education and the way in which students and people in general learn material and are able to retain and recall that material. One such myth is the idea that students need to incorporate copious amounts of study in preparing for tests, and once the test is taken, whatever level that student is placed at is where they will stay. In other words, students need to study as much as they can for a test, and wherever they land with their test scores, that is where the student will stay. So if they score low on a math or reading exam, then they will likely remain poor readers or insufficient in their math skills. However, research and suggestions and study techniques are showing that this myth is inaccurate, and educators, students, and parents alike do not need to accept these ideas as final. Harris, 2015, discusses the idea of illusion of competence, suggesting the idea that studying and reviewing material could be adding to the student's overestimation of his or her knowledge of the material and ability to perform when the time for the test arrives. Carey adds that the fluency of illusion is the primary culprit in below-average test performances. Harris goes on to discuss how passive types of study can add to this illusion and suggests an active approach to study, such as discussion and self-testing. Harris notes, the goal is not to study. The goal is to learn the information so that they have a depth of knowledge and understanding. In other words, students need to put their material into action, or as Harris says, they need to do something with the information in order to learn. So why does a student study? Well, most would say that a student studies in order to do well on exams. And then when some students inevitably do poorly, those students are stigmatized by low test scores. Knowing that some of these test scores will certainly fall under the illusion of fluency, there should be an optimistic outlook regarding the student's ability to improve without stigmatizing that student over a poor test performance. Jensen makes this comment. A critical concept about the brain is its plasticity, or ability to change. This means that regardless of the tested levels of students, chances are those are temporary. Jensen continues by discussing new programs that are being implemented which focus on 5 areas to help students improve their test scores. The 5 areas of concentration are attention, sequencing, processing, short-term memory, and hope. To put this myth in perspective, students are told to study as much as they can for a test. And then if they do poorly on the test, it is believed he or she is then stuck in a place of being defined by those test scores. This myth is just that. It's a myth with no basis in reality, and there are steps that can be taken to help students improve the ability to learn, retain, and recall information in order to perform better during the tests. The solution to this myth is first to inform educators, parents, and especially students that they can learn and grow and are not trapped when it comes to a poor test performance. The second part to this solution is to teach students how to study in a more effective manner, allowing them to overcome the illusion of competency and be better prepared for the test when the time comes. To this end, there are 2 study techniques that have proven particularly effective in which cognitive science has been appropriated in order to provide answers to this myth. In order to improve retention and recall, Carey suggests 2 techniques. The first is called spaced practice, which replaces the idea of cramming for a test by spacing practice out over a period of time in accordance with the amount of time until the material needs to be learned. In other words, instead of doing nothing for a month and cramming for the test the night before, a student could study for a predetermined amount of time weekly leading up to the test. The second technique Carey suggests is pretesting or self-examination in order to prepare for a test. Carey discusses research that has shown how taking a pretest and then being presented with the correct answers after the test increases learning of the material and retention when tested. Dunlosky, Rawson, Marsh, Nathan, and Willingham agree with Carey and suggest both distributed practice and practice testing as a solution to improving students' test scores. Dunlosky et al. Discuss research that shows improved test scores with practice testing and the way this technique helps students organize the learned material mentally. Dunlosky et al. Note the increased benefit of practice testing when it is coupled with spaced practice. They write, the term distributed practice effect refers to the finding that distributed learning over time, even within a single study session or across sessions, typically benefits long-term retention more than does massing learning opportunities back-to-back or in relatively close succession. Dunlosky et al. Report that both distributed practice and practice testing can be effective in a variety of subjects and with a variety of age groups of students. Both techniques can be implemented with relative ease in classroom settings and at home. In order to do so, students need to be taught how to use these study techniques and be reassured that doing so will not require additional study time, just purposeful study time. Dunlosky et al. Consider research that using both techniques together increases retention and test scores. There exists in the world of education today a myth that postulates the needs for students to study at great length for tests and that students who perform poorly on those tests are unable to improve. This myth has been debunked by cognitive science, where extensive research has been conducted in order to show that implementing techniques such as spaced or distributed practice along with practice testing can improve learning and test scores. These techniques do not require extensive or additional time to implement, but can be used by students of all ages across diverse subject matter with great effectiveness. Students can learn and improve. What needs to change in order for this to happen is the way learning is approached, and techniques such as distributed practice and practice testing may be key to providing a solution to certain educational myths. Thank you.